welcome back to the channel. Time for another Runewars battle report. This is from the UK Nationals that I decided to go up to in Birmingham. And here we go for my first game. I was up against Dan with his Latari, so we had the mirror match. My list hasn't changed much from my previous games, so Aliana with the pack leader, Spear and Ambush Predator, a big block of archers. I put in a Storm Sorceress to try and get a bit more damage output, and I realised I wasn't really doing much with the Verdant Sorceress anyway. Wind Rune, Support Scion, Rallying Starling and Simultaneous Orders. Some support archers with Tempered Steel and Lay of the Land. Leonx Riders, Metered March, Moment of Inspiration. 2 Scions, both with Raven Tabards, just to try and stop confusing myself. His list, some similarities and some differences. Aliana, his main thing there is he's got Malkorn's Bequest to manipulate some runes. Leonx Riders, Rank Discipline for some extra rerolls, and Raven Tabards, which became quite important. Some Deepwood Archers. Now he's gone from Megan, Cinderwind and Fire Rune combo, along with Close Quarters Targeting. All of these very important throughout our game. A 2 unit of Scions with the Corruption Rune, which was interesting. And another unit of 2 Scions. So here's our deployment. We are playing Volatile Runes and head-to-head, if memory serves. So as you can see, I've strung myself out, whereas he's turtled a little bit more. With my Leonx on my left, he's put his on his left, sort of anchored around his block. I've got my trees protecting my right. He's got his trees protecting his, and he's got Aliana between his archers and his Leonx. So I'm a bit more spread out than he is, but otherwise a fairly mirrored deployment there. And this is after repositioning his Leonx. I didn't really do much with mine. So first turn, here are some runes. Very intimidating there. 4 red runes for his Fire Rune. He has moved up with his 2 of Scions. Luckily for me, I've rallied and just defensed up with my Aliana, and I opened fire with my archers and picked off a couple of wounds there on his Scions. Those are the ones with the Corruption Rune coming up down the middle. I've just shifted around a little bit with my Scion on the right. Same, just sort of rallied and repositioned my far right Scion to try and intercept his cavalry. My cavalry is pushed up on my left, maybe a bit too far in hindsight, and he's just sort of jigging his other unit of Scions to try and intercept them as well. His archers are repositioning a little bit. He dialed in the ability to do a Fire Rune, but nothing of mine was in range. And then we go straight into turn 2, so just a bit of shuffling around. You'll see his Aliana here has moved up a bit as well. No green runes into turn 2, which is not very good for my Wind Rune. He moves early with his Corruption Rune. Scions go into that piece of terrain, which is going to be a real problem for me. I open up with my small unit of archers anyway, and manage to kill one of them, pip that last wound off one of them, so that was good. He gets the charge off on the right hand side there with his Leonx against my Scion. He doesn't do a whole lot, pips a wound off them, he gets a panic. Could have been a lot worse. I had anticipated that and had dialed in a shift, so I'm shifting back out and defending up. So this is the state there. You'll see my Aliana here has moved up a bit and repositioned. My Leonx have moved up, but not... I think I put a turn in there, but it wasn't quite what I expected. I'm still not particularly good with my cavalry. And they've got themselves into a bit of position. He's reorganised his Scions here to try and protect them, and repositioned again, turning his big unit of archers to face the threats. I think I shot with my big unit of archers, but didn't actually get to do much. It wasn't a brilliant roll. And you'll see here, most importantly, his Aliana has drifted her way to sort of roll up the side of my army here, which is a great play by him, and I'm going to struggle to deal with that, as you can see. I've moved these archers up here, try and get out of the way of his Aliana. I'm a big fan of the Lay of the Land, because I can dial in the double shift and get a free shift out of it. So 3 shift ones, you can actually get quite a bit of mobility out of that. So I think what actually happened is the wound of these guys was from my big unit of archers. So into turn 3, a bit better. I've got some wind rune possibility there, but 4 red runes, which is not great. He was incidentally flipping for these as well, using Malcolm's bequest, trying to get those 4 red runes and pulling it off most turns. This is his Aliana going into my Scion, rolls like an absolute champ and just absolutely demolishes it. But going through this report, I realised that I didn't give her the immobilized token, and this is a recurring theme here. Me forgetting about tokens. Yeah, not brilliant. His Scion here uses its corruption rune, puts an immobilize and a couple of wounds on my big block of archers. My archers take a shot here and don't do much, but reposition due to the wind rune. The wind rune, because it's not based on a movement on the dial, the immobilize doesn't actually affect it as far as I'm aware. These archers take a pot shot, and by the looks of it I managed to get the double surge needed to shift out the way. By the looks of it I took some wounds off his archers up there. Over on this side, my ineffectual lions are still trying to line up some form of charge to deal with these Scions. This could have been a much different game if I'd actually been able to sort these guys out. My Scion here takes a shot at his lions, and I think does a little bit of damage. My Aliana tries to charge, but I didn't quite line it up. I think I was anticipating him moving them to protect his big unit of archers. I figured I'll just go up anyway, see what happens. Picked up a panic token, but I've got an inspiration there, so it's not too bad. So this is the state of things. His cavalry have just activated and got rid of that immobilized token. And this is the state of the board. Somehow my Scion here picked up a stun token. Fair enough. And that's the state of things. Into turn 4, again 4 red runes. He was able to quite consistently get that. Charges in with his cavalry, takes out my Scion, and I can see from this that I forgot to put the immobilized token on them, which would have saved me a turn. Just my fault. I'm trying to get these archers out of the path of Aliana, but you'll see what happens on that one. My Aliana is just trying to put as much pressure as possible on his archers, and his Scions here have turned around. Again, I don't know what's going on here with my riders. That I should have been able to charge something at this point. I've no idea why I haven't been able to, but I'm just monkeying around with them. His big unit of archers opens fire, and you'll notice there's a distinct lack of small unit of archers down here. Yeah, that fire rune with Megan is absolutely awful because she can give her lethal to the fire rune attack, which is absolutely dreadful. His corruption rune Scion here just pops another couple of wounds off my archers and gives them another immobilize. That's turning out to be a bit of a pain in the arse. In return, I have opened fire and taken a couple of wounds off his Aliana now that his ambush predator is gone. And that's the state of play. I've been highly ineffectual with quite a few of my units, forgotten to immobilize these guys. Into turn 5, only 2 red runes this turn, 2 green, that's good for me. I attempt to charge my Leonx and yes, achieve nothing as is tradition here. His Scions here are just keep moving to face whatever threat they need to. My Aliana has charged into his archers finally, getting the extra mortal. Not a great roll, I'll have to admit, but it is what it is. Using my pack leader spear, I managed to take off most of the back rank, put a couple of panic on there, and I figure at this point that I'm doing fairly well. I've also used that actually token to pop a win on Megan, and I figure I'm nice and safe in combat. My unit of archers opens fire on his Megan, who wasn't quite able to get out the way, and I'm able to kill her. And unfortunately, I'd completely forgotten that his archers had close quarters targeting, and they obliterated my poor Aliana there. Into turn 6. Here's the runes. His cavalry are coming round, trying to get to mine. I've rallied. I can't remember why the rally was there. Oh, to get rid of the immobilized tokens for future turns and use the win rune to reposition. And you can see up here that his scions have actually been able to charge into the flank of my lions, which is quite unfortunate, and his other scion has crashed into their back here. It's not going well. They do quite a bit of damage to my lions. We go into turn 7, still 2 red runes. I get an early attack off with my Leonks, pop a couple of wounds on his scions, but really it's not going to achieve a whole lot. His Leonks attack and start picking away at my unit of archers. I dial in a melee attack, figuring I'm still threat 3, but I pick one of them off. Not a great roll, but with one blue dice, I mean, it's about as good as I can expect, really. His archers open fire and taken out my Leonks up here. We go into turn 8. Really, they're just whittling away my guys, and that's where it ends. They had to move up. They didn't quite have the range, so I was left with these 4 little archers here, trying to take on his whole army. And there we go. I had managed to pick off 69 points of his army, but he almost obliterated me for 191. So we start the day off with a 2-9 loss in the mirror match. But I learned a hell of a lot. I need to remember to put my immobilized tokens in. I need to be better with stun tokens, using those a bit better. I really need to get to grips with how to position and how to use my Leonks to put pressure on other armies, as well as using my scions a bit more effectively, because I do feel like they do tend to die for no good reason in a lot of games. But there we go, that's the end of the game, and join me for game 2 of Nationals.